On today's episode, we'll talk about starting out as an actor, the post, cocaine bear, horizontal augmentation devices, and of course, corporate HR videos. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds.
Hey everybody, Danny Brown here, creator of the Knuckle Puck, and we at Knuckle Puck Camera are proud supporters of this episode of The Op. The Knuckle Puck is a camera accessory loved by operators and camera assistants alike that allows the operator to pan and tilt with precision and ease. Check it out at knucklepuckcamera.com and make sure to follow us on Instagram at knucklepuckcamera.
Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy The Op. Thanks for listening.
Live it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll. Rolling.
Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello and welcome back to The Op, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. My name is Dave Kamaides, and I am very excited to be here today on the road, actually, at the home of John Buzz Moyer, a friend and excellent A-camera Steadicam operator. Some of John's credits, I just called you John, some of Buzz's credits. That's good. It's weird to call him John. Yeah. Some of Buzz's credits, but not all of them because they go on for quite some time. The Post was Steven Spielberg. West Side Story was Steven Spielberg, which he won the SOC Operator of the Year award along with Mitch Dubin that year. The Hunt, which he was nominated for the SOC Operator of the Year award. Cocaine Bear, which I could not say Cocaine Bear just because, let's face it, come on, Cocaine Bear. Mayor of Kingston, Kingpin, Rocky Balboa, the list goes on and on. Buzz, thank you for being here.
Thanks. I appreciate you coming, Dave.
Wait, thank you for having me here. I guess
yeah, well, hey, this could be the podcast mecca.
I wouldn't mind this. We're in Buzz's, what do you call this, like rec room? Or
it's kind of the rec room bar extension to, it's just a great place.
As much as I love the Panavision Theater where I usually do this has better beer and it's,
Yeah, well, and it's free.
It's free.
Well, it's free there too, I guess. Yeah.
So tell me your story. How'd you get here?
Yeah, it's just like everybody. They have a different story. It's a progression. It's a lifelong endeavor to do this. And you start. A friend just called me. I had to talk to him. A guy I lived with in college, and he said, I've always admired you for kind of knowing what you wanted to do. I mean, I was 18 at the time, but I knew that. He goes, you always wanted to do Steadicam. He said, I'm going Steadicam. I want to do Steadicam. And from the time I saw Wolfen.
Oh, no way. Ted Churchill, right?
No, that's Garrett.
Oh, that's Garrett?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
I saw
Garrett
Wolfen.
Brown. I
ended up seeing that movie the next day. I went to Ithaca College and went into my professor, Patty Zimmerman, who is still there.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I saw this movie, and the camera was like, it was a dog, and it was gliding over all this rubble and downstairs. And she goes, that's Steadicam. I was like,
that's so cool. That's great.
That's what I'm going to do.
So the day after you saw Wolfen.
Yeah. I knew right then. I was in film school.
What year was that?
That would have been 83 or 4. I saw it. It was because I think the movie came out a couple years earlier because I would go see the movies up at Cornell. They always run horror movies and stuff. But I was totally enamored. I tried to do everything, to learn about that.
Yeah.
And another part about that story is the last time that anyone shot at the Bronx Zoo was Wolfen.
Oh, really?
Until I shot there and did this movie called, it's called, it was called Beware the Night with the shooting title.
Oh, it came out of something else.
With Eric Bana was in it, which he's amazing. But I just borrowed an exo vest off of an operator.
Specific Steadicam vest.
Exactly. Yeah. It was just kind of come out for people to use. And I called Garrett and I said, I am in the Bronx Zoo. where I first saw your work on Wolfen.
That's cool.
And I'm wearing the new Exo vest, and I love the thing. And it was anyway. So it was kind of like a
Yeah. He must have loved getting that.
Oh,
phone
he
call.
totally did. Yeah,
That's
he totally
great.
did. Yeah. So everyone's story is different. I mean, I started off as actually a dancer
Really?
years
Hip-hop?
ago. I was did summer stock theater. There was a choreographer here at our school,
Yeah.
and when I was 10 years old, and he would choreograph for the Kenley Players, which is a group in Ohio who had a theater in Warren, Columbus, Dayton, Flint, Michigan, and I think there might have been one more there.
Yeah.
But he would choreograph in the summers, and he said, well, I have the kids. So he kind of we did these rehearsals and things for a couple of weeks, and we did Oliver, and Vincent Price played Fagin.
Wow. That's you worked
So
with Vincent Price?
I did.
That's really cool.
And I had to join Equity. So I was a union employee
Wow.
when I was 10 years old.
That's
and I was
amazing.
expected to,
Yeah.
be a professional.
Sure.
So the next year, ended up doing Peter Pan. Sandy Duncan was trying to get her chops together because she was going on Broadway. So she just did the summer stock run to get all her stuff back together again. And I did Peter Pan with Sandy Duncan. So early on, I was very much had the experience with working as a professional.
Sure.
What does that mean? I don't know. But there's a certain requirement of your skill, your ability, your professionalism.
Yeah.
And you had to know what you're doing
Yeah.
because you're performing live in front of, at the time, I think it's 1,700 people each show, these smaller venues. So then I ended up coming back to Pittsburgh, and then I was he said, well, you got to do commercials. So I ended up doing commercials and billboards and Kmart commercials where I'd have a shirt on pointing.
Do you have any of these?
Well,
Come on, you have the video of these?
I'm sure there's no, but I do have the Diet Coke commercial I did in college.
You got to share this with me.
I did a national Diet Coke that Steve Horn shot. Steve Horn was a director, shooter in New York, and he, Steve and Linda Horn, and he did the Mean Joe Green commercial, the famous Mean Joe Green commercial. And I did the Diet Coke. So I'm in my dorm room at Ithaca College, and the Super Bowl comes on in 1980.
And it was a Super Bowl commercial.
1984, and and we'll be right back, and the planes fly over, fades to black, fades up on my face, and I'm in the dorm, the common
Surrounded by
room,
everybody,
and
right?
they're like, pointing, oh, that's him, Then I had to go back to the room, so Mom was calling me, but. So
great.
and during that, I was in film school at Ithaca, so I was on set with a real Newark film crew.
Yeah.
And talked to Steve and saw what a BL camera, an Arri BL camera, and a real film camera,
Film cameras, yeah.
and dolly grip, and understood the job descriptions, from afar.
But were you thinking like this is something I want to be a part of at that point, or you were just sort of learning?
I was at that point. I knew I wanted to do, definitely get into film somehow.
Yeah, not as an actor.
Not as an actor.
Yeah.
And the thing that really sold me as an actor, because I came back to Pittsburgh, there's a lot of corporate work here. So just to skip ahead, when I did buy the Steadicam, some of the best training I ever could ask for, because I had to start a shot, do a shot, and end a shot. Whereas you're shooting a music video or a walk and talk, you're just basically, pointing the camera and doing,
You mean because they were corporates and people were just delivering the information? It's like you're not cutting away to anything. You've got to do the entire piece, and it's all got to work.
And they were scripted.
Yeah.
So a man would come into a room and say, "Bill, can we have a discussion?" And Bill would be like, "Sure, Dave. What's up? Hey, listen. Come into my office." And I'd have to take him down to the office.
Sure.
And it'd be like, yeah, listen, were you talking to Sally yesterday? It's like, yeah, I talk to her every day. Well, she was a little uncomfortable, so that kind of thing. So basically,
This is like in-house corporate videos,
yeah, exactly.
basically.
But I mean, for Buick,
sure.
for Xerox, all these things. And at the time, because Mr. Rogers was shot here.
Oh yeah.
And there was a couple actors on the show. One of them was Chuck Aber,
Okay.
who could do this ear thing. So he would put a wireless bug in his ear,
Yeah.
have a tape recorder, and read off 3 pages of medical jargon that I had no idea, or he even knew what he was saying.
Yeah.
And we could, with the Ikegami 79E, which is a great industrial camera, you can put the gels in front of it, balance the overhead lighting, and walk through these labs. And he could walk through the lab and say, at Fisher Scientific, we're working on protocol for blah, blah,
So
blah,
he's
blah,
like
blah.
the narrator, basically.
Yeah, and he's basically just regurgitating what he had recorded on the script on his tape.
Yeah.
But we could go on forever. And
So you're saying, but it's for you to time it to that, you mean? Is that?
he's talking real time.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But he's just reading the script because he's basically read the script into his little tape recorder.
Yep.
And he's just, whatever is saying in his ear, he's just talking back.
Oh, I see. Because he's listening to it and saying it on camera as he's hearing himself say it in the earpiece. I got you.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then he could stop and say, "Oh, Dr. Fletcher, what are you working on here?" "Well, we're working on a new protocol, blah, 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 blah," and have an interview. And I could be circling and continuing the shot. And then I could, if we wanted to cut or whatever, I could just kind of pan off and they go to bullet points and that sort of thing. Or they could just cut the bullet points. And then he could just turn around, "Well, thanks, doctor," and turn around, hit the button again and start the script. So to have to block an interesting shot was great.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to understand narrative.
Yeah.
Not just, okay, we're here for the Steadicam shot, which is, take them from the porch down to the thing and they leave,
Yep.
So it was a great experience for storytelling.
That's great, isn't it? But it's amazing because if you said the industrials taught me how to tell stories, you wouldn't think that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it just goes to show you, it's like, and it's I find this over and over as I talk to people. It's, you know what? At the beginning, you're doing anything that you can. Right. Especially you're in a market like this where you don't have a lot of choices, but you do it the best you can and you learn what you can from it, and it ends up helping you down the line, right?
Yeah, and yes, and just shooting B-roll, because if you have the opportunity to do an interview with somebody and they're talking about a trucking company saying, "We just invested in this fleet of so and so," and paying attention to that dialogue, paying attention to the quote unquote script that he was saying, when you go to do the B-roll, you know how it's going to cut in and how you'd go from a wide to a tight or tight to wide. So now you're putting visuals to a story. Yeah. All of doing this was just such an effective, and I didn't know that.
Yeah. That probably helps though, right? You didn't know you were, and then 5 years later, you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Why am I? Well, now you're choosing why we starting a scene tight when the last shot in the first scene. Yeah. Was tight.
So sometimes when you're working with Spielberg, do you go, we did this thing for Fisher Scientific that
I did, and he actually stopped and he'd say, "Well, sit down with me, explain it to me.
Tell me about this."
Yeah. Yeah. So just to continue, and basically, I worked here in Pittsburgh as a grip, as an electrician, just to get work, because when films would come to Pittsburgh, they would always bring everybody in, so I couldn't get on the camera department, for the most part. Yeah. Early on. Until the TV movies would come in, then they could say, "Well, we need a second or something." So I'd get on a second, meet the first, and which then led me to other jobs. One in particular, Jeff Tefano came in, and I was seconding for Jeff, and then Jeff ended up doing Mr. and Mrs. Bridge. Okay. With Paul Newman and Jordan. Yeah. So, it's like, okay, so
That was here?
No, that was down in Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
The Merchant Ivory thing that
suddenly you're working with Paul Newman.
Yeah. And then that also ups your level of, okay, this is,
right.
I think I could do this.
How old were you?
I was 25 or 6 at the time.
And do you remember was that like the first time you're like, I'm like working on a real movie with real movie stars and this is it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then I saw the possibility. I saw the future.
So you seconded on that, you said?
I seconded, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think it was a week or two that I went down and to do that. But then coming back here, just to keep working, I actually started shooting a lot of things, just corporate videos. Yeah. And then I did a job in Los Angeles as a grip, and that job ended up going union, so my rate increased. I was the best boy grip on that job. There's a movie called Mom and Dad Save the World,
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I think John Lovett's first feature out of Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
Shot at Santa Clarita Studios. There's only one person selling used Steadicams back then, a fellow named Derek Whitehouse.
Derek Whitehouse. Yep. Derek Whitehouse used to have but it was like used everything.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It was
all
like
the
surplus.
Right. He had all the CP things.
Yep.
He had CP16s, all these.
Yeah. And I don't even remember how because this was pre-internet. Was there a list that went around or something? Or did you call him and say, do you have Steadicams or what?
Back in the day, the American Cinematographer magazine would have at the back. And
he had a full-page ad of stuff that he was selling.
Yeah. Or just a couple popped in there.
Yeah.
And the Steadicam newsletter.
Okay, yeah.
I still have the Steadicam newsletter
the
in
paper
print
one that would come out.
that has my Steadicam that I bought.
Wow. Who'd you buy it from?
I bought it from Derek Whitehouse.
Oh, but I mean, do you know whose it was before you?
I don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was a Model 2.
Model 2, so like the second generation of the Steadicam, but still a 3-inch screen.
Yes, that's right. So I bought that, and I came back to Pittsburgh, and that's when I started to do the corporate videos.
Yeah.
And I started shooting or operating for this local director, cameraman who had a BL.
Area film camera.
Film camera. And with the BL, the film moves from one side to the other.
Yep.
So it would mess with your trim. So doing longer takes, I kind of learned to feel level with my hand. Obviously, I'd pay attention to the bubble, but I could tell when there was more pressure. And I would learn to, pardon the clock, I could feel it on my pinky, and I would switch the pinky to the other side of the gimbal.
Gotcha. So you're saying, but because for people who don't know film, because actually a lot of people who listen to this probably don't know.
Right.
The film on the magazine started on the left?
Started on the right side.
Right side. It went through the camera, and then it took up on the left. So as you're doing a long shot, more than say probably a minute, I guess. Your weight actually changed. I remember that. Like you sort of guess how long it was, and then I don't know what you did, but I would sort of set the trims what I thought was the middle. Of the shot.
You preset
so
it.
You sort of have to like goose it on one side and then slowly goose it on the other to keep level.
That's right.
Yep.
And when you goosed it, you could feel how much pressure that was.
Yeah.
And your pinky would learn that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't think that's yet another thing that's been lost in the transfer to video is like newer operators wouldn't understand whatever that taught us. I don't know. But
right.
I think you're right. It was like an inherent understanding of the weight and how it affected level.
And I also think, 30 some years later that I still, because I currently do not use a wave or a volt.
So the
horizontal augmentation devices.
Horizontal augmentation devices, which I'm right there with you. I don't like them. Buzz and I have spent a lot of time talking about this.
We have indeed. I find that it was not helping. It was more of a deficit to me. And certainly that's not true for everybody.
Because it confused your instincts, essentially?
It did. And it also took one point out of my circle. When I talk about circle, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but headroom, framing, wear and frame, boom height.
The things you think
level.
About when you're operating.
Yeah, just the things that always would go through my head, that circle. Yeah. And when I missed it, I was like, wait, where's the level part? And I was like, oh, it is level. Okay, what am I looking for now?
Where do I go next?
I become distracted. It's like, wait a minute. Oh,
that's so funny. But it's old dogs, new tricks, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if it isn't broken, don't fix it. Yeah. It's funny because you and I have talked about that. Is like I've also tried both of the, what did you call them? Horizon augmentation devices.
Yes.
Which is a very nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
And I find them to be very frustrating as well.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe like the next generation will go, I don't know how I could do this without it. So
and we'll see.
The bigger thing for me is I find that when I see those shots, and we're getting into a whole Steadicam sideline, which I should pull away from in a second, but just to put it out there and see if you feel the same way. I look at those shots and there's just they're like missing some humanity or something because they're so level. Yeah,
it's interesting you say that because there's a DP that I worked with, again, getting ahead of ourselves, and I'll certainly go back, but I did Cocaine Bear with him, which you mentioned, and I recently did 2 jobs with him. I did Cocaine Bear, and I used a horizon augmentation device, and then the next job I didn't use it. I went back to my original
old school doing your job, yeah.
And he said, "What happened? Your operating got so much better."
Really? On the second one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, he goes, yeah, there's something about it. Lost its humanity. It lost its.
I totally think so.
Whatever it is that you do, that you put into it, it's gone.
And it's weird because it shouldn't be that way, but it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't understand it totally, but it's like too perfect almost. Anyway,
yeah.
That's a whole nother story. So you came back here and you were doing Steadicam on corporate videos.
Yeah.
Then
I ended. So I ended up getting in the union, which was 644 at the time.
Okay.
Because it's 600 now, 644, which is
the East Coast.
East Coast, correct.
Camera Union.
Because they were organizing Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I'm not going to say how much I got in for.
Okay. But you got in.
Yeah, that allowed me to get on jobs that were coming in here as D camera, C camera operator. So early on, I was on a couple of jobs. I ended up working on a movie called Kingpin as the B camera operator.
That must have been a fun movie to work on.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Farrelly brothers were fantastic.
Yeah.
And Mark Irwin, the DP, had shot, at that point.
Everything.
Yeah,
he was big.
Yeah, and he has a certain style that he does.
Okay.
Everything to avoid using Steadicam.
So you were B camera Steadicam on that?
No.
Oh, just B camera.
No, he would use these things called, I think, cow pies, where he would mount the sticks on these padded. He's a great designer, great inventor. In fact, he has a great spreader system now, which I'm going to end up getting because it's genius. Instead, we can talk about that later. But if those out there in the ether world, look it up. Mark Irwin's. I think it is through Matthews, but the spreader system he has.
The thing that goes on the bottom of the sticks to hold them together.
So he would put on a Western dolly and put this cow pie to kind of, and he was a movie cam.
And he wasn't a Steadicam fan just because he had bad experiences?
I think that he just didn't. At the time, there were a lot of Steadicam operators who had varied degrees of skill, and also attitudes.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that was not something he wanted to contend with or deal with.
So you're just the big camera operator.
I can appreciate.
Yeah.
So that led then through him. That led to me, myself, and Irene, where he said, "Look, we have the Steadicam shot we have to do, and you want to come up and try it?"
Yeah.
And at that point, I had practiced, and I knew I could do anything with that Steadicam.
Yeah.
And I probably couldn't.
Yeah.
But you
thought you could do anything.
And that's that confidence.
Yeah.
That's not cockiness. That's confidence in your ability to provide for someone who's asking you to do something.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
And if they weren't happy with something, I had the ability to change and do what someone was asking.
And do you is that because of your work on the industrials, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to the point, I'm in Puerto Rico on a forklift, hanging on and booming down through racks of waste.
Yeah. And
then coming into Steve, who was another local guy who did the ear.
Yeah.
And just walking through these plants and just going on. Yeah. So I was like, look, I was on a forklift. I'm just in the woods.
You guys have a crane?
Jim Carrey.
This is great.
It's like, what the heck? Yeah. So, and I was surprised because I could. These shots were not just acceptable. I was happy.
Yeah.
And I think anyone watching them would say, okay.
Yeah.
And
was he happy with it?
Yeah. He actually would come over and say, "You are not very shaky." And that's from him.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah. But the real, for me was that he would keep hiring me to do B camera and Steadicam.
That's great.
So as a confidence builder, that was feature-wise, that was great. And then Glenn being here doing multiple commercials with that BL, and him trusting me, and having someone have your back, having someone trusting you, and also someone who is offering suggestions without. There's a way to offer suggestions.
Yeah.
Saying, I liked what you did there, but maybe we should try this.
Yeah. Not shutting you down, but going,
what are you thinking?
Another way.
So to have that, feel safe.
Yeah. And do you think that allows you to experiment and to try things differently since you're in that environment, as opposed to constantly being afraid of?
Yeah, and I think that's a tough term, Dave. Differently. I think it's interpretation, and if you as an operator are dialed into the script, dialed into the actors who are portraying that person in the script, having a pause, and this gets in the nuance of things, deeper the 401, 501 kind of stuff of it, but having someone have a conversation about after a take and saying like, man, I liked it. Okay, I liked what you did there. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So I think it's how having someone trust your interpretation of what the scene is or whatever, or a shot, which is, going through, you go like a long walk and talk or something. One of the best compliments I ever had was the director. A director said, I love the way you see this film.
That's great.
That
tells you everything you want right there.
Right.
No, it really does because yeah, it's basically, it's giving you ownership of what you're putting into it.
Right.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, to have that support, have a collaboration, a collaborative discussion, and being allowed to experiment, to have my way of thinking.
Well, I think that's one thing that I think is the hardest thing for people who are starting out, and I know it was for me, because I don't know about you, but when I was starting out, it was just, okay, what do you want? And I'm going to do that. Like, I just want to make you happy, Yeah. And then as you start to get confidence and you're with people who will allow you to do it, obviously, you start to go, I'm going to go a little later. I'm not going to tell anybody other than the assistant, but I'm just going to go a little later here, or with the dolly grip, like, hey, let's hold back a little bit. And whatever.
Exactly.
And then you start putting your nuances on it and telling the story your way. And then hopefully you get to that point where the director comes up and says, exactly that.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, and it takes a while to. The thing is, you don't even know you don't know. You don't even know you don't know that, or you don't know that you could do that.
Yeah, what you mean at the beginning?
Yes.
Well, at the beginning, let's face it, you're just trying not to get fired.
Exactly. That's exactly.
And then
right.
you're just trying to get hired back.
Yeah, and most of that, at least with Steadicam, not just operating, which we can get into. Just standard operating is being level, maintaining headroom.
Yep.
Not overcommitting, undercommitting, that kind of thing. Because there's a whole different nuance to. Steadicam operating as compared to being on the wheels,
sure,
or a fluid head, or having to collaborate with a dolly grip, who may or may not be as efficient or proficient.
It goes both. It goes all ways.
Yeah.
Right.
So how you get in a situation where that's the thing about Steadicam is I knew I could move over here, I could move 3 inches here, move 3 inches here, but when I was on the B camera with a dolly, I was like, oh boy, I'm kind of stuck here. How do I tell and talk?
So let me ask you a question about that. These movies are coming into town.
Right.
The B dolly grip, who more often than not is usually maybe someone who doesn't have as much experience. Sometimes they're great. I mean, but usually they're people who are sort of learning and moving up. They get stuck with the local guys, so they're probably in the back of their minds. And this is before IMDb.
Yeah.
So they're probably going, "Oh God, I wonder if this guy knows what he's doing."
Right.
So how do you handle that introduction, figuring out what they know? Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I always feel like the first couple of days with a new dolly grip, they're testing me to see what I know, and I'm testing them to. Maybe not so much anymore because people can IMDb, but still, they're still sort of going, "What do you like and what don't you like?" And there's that whole thing. So how do you do that? Like when you were younger. Now it's a different situation, but
yeah, I'm speaking from a small market.
Well, that's why I asked you specific, because I basically grew up in LA, so it's a different world for me. But I gotta assume people coming into town, they're like, "Oh, it's the local guy."
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and generally, if one of the first big movies I did here was it was called Sudden Death. It was a Jean-Claude Van Damme hockey movie that Peter Hyams directed, and. Oh gosh, Mike, he's passed away. Michael Stone was the A camera operator.
Mike Stone, yeah, great camera operator.
Yeah, Jerry Hallway came in to do Steadicam. Did a magnificent Skyman thing that went through the Civic Arena.
Oh wow, Skyman was the flying Steadicam thing that they used to do.
Yes, and Pat Capone came in to do B camera.
Pat Capone,
who is now
Big DP.
Yeah. And then me.
Yeah.
So we had 3 cameras pretty much working all the time.
Okay.
And an old assistant who's retired named Jeff Hand, we got along, and he got me on the job as a C camera operator. So that was one of the bigger jobs I did. And it was anamorphic.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and we had dailies every night.
Nice.
So that's another
First time you'd ever done that?
Yeah, that's another thing we've kind of lost.
Yeah.
Is when you're sitting in a room with the producer, the director, and your shot's up, and it's just like,
do you remember the fear that used to?
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Did you ever have a moment where it came up and you were the moment, because I remember this from one show where, you know, dailies are running and you're sort of trying to go through your mind like where it's going to come in, and then you know it's bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it comes in and you're sort of like, you know, bracing yourself for, does everybody else think this is bad? Did I get away with it?
That's right. Well, and Peter liked me, and Pat was very much supportive.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's always a good thing.
after dailies, it was like, you know, when you did that, what were you thinking there?
Okay. So it was a teaching experience.
Yeah.
As opposed to,
Yeah.
why are we stuck with this guy?
Yeah. Next time, why don't you try this?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, really, 80% of the work was good, and I exponentially got better throughout the weeks of shooting.
Yeah.
And I had dolly grips on that we were on ice with dollies and things like that.
Wow.
So, yeah. And because I didn't have the experience to know how to really talk to a dolly grip, I was learning that as well.
Yep.
And, you know, having to express a certain, not just push it from here to here. It's okay. You need to push it this way from here to here, because I need to be ahead of them here, and then they have to start coming in front of us or behind us or whatever. So it ended up being a lot of hand signals.
Okay.
Because that dolly grip was not kind of up to speed or sophisticated with
and in a situation like that, do you go to Pat or Michael, who are on an A and B, and say, hey, you have any suggestions of how I can work this? Or do you sort of tough it out yourself because you don't want to?
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, because I felt it was not their.
Yeah.
You know, they had their own issues, their own problems.
Fair enough.
And I think today, as an A-camera operator, I would certainly love it if someone came up to me and says, look, I'm having a hard time with this dolly grip. How can I do this? But back then, it was kind of a different.
I think things have changed a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. There's not that those two guys wouldn't, by the way, because they're
correct.
actually
That's
two
right.
wonderful guys.
Exactly.
But there was a mentality of like, well, I figured it out. You figure it out.
That's right.
And I think that's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that was a great learning experience, you know, and also shooting anamorphic with, you know, the different headroom options and, you know, a lot of action, you know, shooting fights and not over panning for the fight, allowing the frame to be played, and then also knowing when my shot was going to be used.
Talk to me about that.
Okay. So as a B camera and C camera operator, it is very important, vitally important to know why and when your shot is going to be used. Because, for example, if the A camera has a shot where, just imagine someone coming up from a stairway, and that A camera is dollying now as they come up the stairs, and you have started your dolly halfway through that move, and then your dolly ends, and then they start walking towards you, and they walk out of frame. Well, you've wasted your dolly move because it's already been. They're not going to cut to that shot.
Yeah. So
know when that edit's going to happen. Even to the point where if you're comfortable as a B camera or C camera operator, you know, you could go to the A camera first and then say, look, you know, I'm confused about when it's going to happen, or
when my shot starts, basically.
Or ask the director. And you know, hopefully the director's, you know, on board with that and saying, like, you know, I'm just concerned that the shot we have for me is going to be wasted. So should I wait? Should I not wait? What would you say? Yeah.
And that's how you would pose it to them.
Totally. Yeah. And I think if you always start a conversation with the director saying, I'm having difficulty understanding, or I'm concerned that something will be lost for your cut, or if you approach it that way, then it puts it on them to make the decision.
Yep.
And that also builds collaboration.
Yeah.
Because then the director will say, "Oh, they get it."
Yes, like they're talking my language and they're thinking of. I think the other thing it shows is that they're thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
This is someone who's like here to play. The other thing that I usually find is, as opposed to going, when do you want me to start my move?
Right.
Because they've got 12 million things on their, like you said, it's hey, I just want to make sure that I'm doing what you're going to need here in the edit. Do you think I should start my move when he comes up the stairs, or would it be better for me to wait? And usually, like we all do, I'm going to throw emphasis on the part that I think is right.
Right, exactly.
And they probably know that.
Right.
But at least what it does is it, instead of making them go, oh, now I got to think about this, it gives them an A or a B, and they can go, no, that's it. Or they'll say something else. But at least you're sort of doing some of their work for them there,
Sure.
because they've got 14 other things going on.
Right. And they may get help from the script supervisor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also saying, they're going too soon, or when I don't think you can use that shot or whatever.
Yeah. But if you obviously didn't learn that working on movies, because you were just starting on movies here. Did you learn that watching movies, or where did you come up with that information? Like, how did you figure that out?
I think that was years later, but because again, as being a young B or C camera operator, it's like you didn't even know to ask that question.
Yes. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
So you're kind of thrown out there. If I'd known what I know now.
Okay, I got you. So in other words, it's more about you did the move, and then Pat comes up to you after dailies and goes, "You see how you started too early? So we're never going to use that shot." So then you learn it from there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or screen direction things, like you start the move, and then you realize that look is the wrong. They cut from the A cameras looking left, and they cut the and they're looking right because you died too soon.
And those are it's. I mean, one of the things. Do you remember it as being overwhelming?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the A camera operator said, "I'm going to use the fluid head on this, you take the wheels."
That was my next question.
Yeah,
was you being out here? I'm sure you didn't see wheels that often.
No, not at all.
So did you just practice every chance you had on the truck, or what? Like, what did you do?
I think that I just kind of, again, because of the Steadicam. Steadicam is a very tactile thing.
Yeah,
and so are the wheels. So I learned early what up and down and right and left was.
Okay.
But how to do that was the hard part.
So how'd you just trial and error?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, if you ask me now, I can give you all of the nuance of what you should do with.
Yeah.
But back then, I was late or I was early on a pan or a tilter. I'd blow the headroom because I didn't go fast enough.
Yep.
But I found the wheels to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
With dolly grips that would, come out of the gates too fast.
Yeah.
Or stop too fast or boom up too fast.
Yeah. Because being on the wheels versus a fluid head, you wouldn't have that jolt or whatever. You can control it much better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So learning, learning all these things, being here, and just getting into it, and then really focusing on what I did wrong with the dailies, and seeing how I could fix it. Because every night you could watch the work, where nowadays you don't have that.
It's such a complete loss that dailies don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's so weird that I say that, because the reality is, like, after a 12-hour day, the last thing I really want to do is go somewhere and sit in a dark room with a bunch of people for an hour.
Right.
But it was so invaluable at the same time. And now I don't know about you, but I don't even watch dailies that much anymore, because the system just is so clunky online and never works well. And I don't know. It's just, if anything, I actually will watch the B camera operators' dailies more than mine, just to make sure that, like, there's nothing I need to be aware of or something like that. But it is frustrating. And I was going to ask you a question. So they come into town.
Yeah.
You didn't know these guys before they came into town, most of them anyway. So they come into town, they hire you. Your first day on set, do you ask them about what do you like for headroom? Or do you just watch them? Or?
So I cheated on that job because I started as the crane grip.
Okay.
So I was moving cameras. I was the Titan crane, which is the giant crane.
Yeah.
We had another crane on top of that crane.
Wow.
So I would control the big crane. And I'd done a couple jobs as a dolly grip. So I just understanding positional things and why you're pushing the dolly, when, how fast, how so learning moving the camera, pushing a dolly was invaluable.
Yeah.
As well as at the same time, because I had already done 2 years of doing corporate videos with a Steadicam. So when it became, I remember the first shot I did on that job, it was on a dolly.
As a camera operator.
And the Penguin was running down this ramp.
Yeah.
And, running fast and there's knocking people over and things. And
the penguin meaning the
mascot.
The mascot.
And
Okay.
I believe Jean-Claude Van Damme was in the penguin.
Okay, gotcha.
And Mike Stone was in the dolly in front of me with the fluid head. Mm-hmm. I had the geared head. And the shot happened, and the shot was over. He goes, "Well, how'd you do?" And I said, "Yeah, great." I mean, I had no idea what I saw. I had no idea how it looked. It ended up being fine.
Okay.
But it's funny because to this day, I think back about that shot and how completely out of it I was. Just so disconnected with the fact that I was the one who was panning and tilting.
Meaning you weren't aware of the weight of it, you're saying? What do you mean by out of it?
Yeah, I was so disconnected. In other words, I didn't, and I'm going to bookend this with another story, but I felt like I wasn't operating it. Like I was watching it.
Like you were watching it.
And I was
Is
saying,
that a good thing?
And I was like, well, that's not good. And then I'd kind of fix it. I was like, okay, I fixed it. No, wait, no, that's not good. And I'd fix that. So it was almost like I was so disconnected from it.
I just remember my first shots as being abject fear. But I do remember the thing of like the A camera operator going, "How was that?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, that was I gotta go." And my whole thing would be like, "Please don't ask me anything specific because I have no idea what I actually did."
Oh, we'll see in dailies.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'll be on the call sheet for one more day at least until dailies come out.
But I got to tell you, if I was on a Steadicam doing that shot, it would have been great.
Yeah.
But I was so...
Because that's your comfort zone. Yeah. Well, the other thing in fairness was, and it's still sort of the same way, but now I don't know about you, but now it's like like there are 6 people on the job now who go, "Oh, I got a Steadicam." I'm like,
that's right.
Okay. But back then, it was no one could tell you what to do really because like they didn't understand it and it was this mystical thing and you hid behind that, I think, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, they could tell you what to do of like follow this or give me some more headroom or whatever, but they had no idea how it worked. And I think, I mean, that definitely saved me a lot because it was like, well, he's not very good on the wheels, but he can do the Steadicams. Yeah. He'll get there.
That's right. Yeah. And I think, not to change the subject, but DPs are having that same problem these days, is that back in the day with film, the DP would walk out with his box with a white knob on it and point it to things and walk around and be like, putting his hand over the thing.
For those who don't know, that's called a light meter.
Light meter. And he would then walk over to the camera assistant and he would say, 5.6.
Yep.
And then the only people that knew what that would look like would be the DP, the gaffer, and the colorist, effectively. Mm-hmm. So 3 people, because some person would this magazine would show up on top, and then someone would take the film out and put it in a can that would go to a laboratory, and it would show magic next day. Which for you and I, for early days, we're looking at a 3-inch green screen
on the Steadicam,
and you're doing these shots, and you're just hoping that the headroom and the horizon and the grip didn't get the flag and the light, and then you look at it in dailies, it's this full color thing, and you're like, this is absolutely amazing.
This is bonkers.
Yeah.
But, not to mention, by the way, that you hope that the green screen turned on first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it didn't always turn on.
Oh, right. My first union job I was on, it was called Lorenzo's Oil, and John Seal was shooting it, and George Miller was director.
Uh-huh.
And I was when I did the shot pushing on Susan Sarandon, and I had my Model 1 there, and they had to get a BL. There were only 3 lightweight cameras available.
Because you couldn't put most of those cameras on there.
So I showed up and, about to rehearse this thing. I turned it on and went, I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And I whacked the bottom of the thing and he comes back on. Okay, great.
I remember smacking the side of my rig so often. And I remember there was one director who went, "Are you supposed to be doing that?" And I looked at him and I was like, there's no other way it works.
Yeah.
And then I remember thinking like, this has got to look ridiculous. I mean, because it's what we did all the time. Actually, my big thing was there was right under the monitor, there was this there was a card that went in there, and it had 2 screws because you could pull it out for some reason. I don't remember why, but it would get loose, so I would jiggle it all the time, and I think I had tape all over it. But I do remember, like, you'd turn on that. There were 2 switches. There was that switch that heated up the thing.
That's right.
And then there was the second switch that turned it on, and you'd heat it up. That wasn't anything because you didn't hear anything. And then you turn it on, and you sort of close your eyes a little bit and hope that it didn't spark and kill you. And then when it didn't, you were like, did it turn on? You're like, okay, we're okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I miss those days in a weird way.
I know. No DAs, like night, because the ground glass would go for, whatever it was, 70-30 or 60-40, whatever.
Yeah.
And at night, you couldn't see. I mean, you may have a practical or a street light that gauge your headroom off of somebody. No.
It was a totally different world. But I know what you mean about DPs, because now it's like the producer can look at the monitor and go, no, this is good. Let's just go. This looks fine.
Right.
Whereas in the past they could never do that, because they could go, we got to go, and you go, okay, well, you're not going to have any image. I got to finish lighting this.
Sure. Or a director's assistant can walk in with coffee and say, oh, that looks very green.
Yeah.
That's green. What's green?
Yeah.
What's green? What's green? What's green?
I did a job.
Green,
I think the last film job that I did, it drove me nuts because we had high definition taps.
Yeah.
And not the old standard definition taps. So the picture looked absolutely beautiful, but it was the picture through the film camera. Right. It was not what it looked like. So I constantly had, like, hair, well, not hair, but makeup coming up and going, why is it so dark? That's not the image.
Right.
And I kept saying, why can't these be crappy old taps? Because then everybody would know that this isn't what it looks like. And it's it goes to what we were talking about, is like, I think there's this concept of everybody's used to seeing what it's going to finally be.
Right.
And then when you mess with that, they lose their minds.
Yeah.
So how long did you do B, C, D, or whatever before you started doing A camera, and what was that like? What was that jump like?
Yeah, I'd done quite a few jobs as B camera Steadicam, and
mostly features.
Yeah, I did,
because that's all that came into town. Probably.
Yeah, well, I travel. I mean, I did quite a few jobs out of town as B camera Steadicam. Wait,
let me back up and ask you one thing that I didn't ask you, because we're still on B camera.
Yeah.
When you're B camera, how do you interact with the A? When you were the B camera operator, how did you interact with the A camera operator? What did you feel like your responsibility to them was? And as an A camera operator, what do you feel that the responsibility of the B camera operator to you is, as far as communication, as far as any of that stuff?
Here was the advantage that I had as a Steadicam operator, because I was the A camera operator when the Steadicam came out. Because I was the only camera working.
That's okay. So you get moments of being an A camera operator.
Yes.
Yes.
And you had to learn, and I would watch the A camera operator, how they dealt with the actors or something. And I could, if you read the room and see that they're kind of not talking not the right way, or how they like to be talked, you learn a lot through that.
Yeah.
You learn how not to do it.
Actually, I think that goes for the whole industry, right?
Yes.
I find that I've learned much more by watching people fail.
Yeah, that's correct.
than watching people succeed.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, an actor would connect with you, so we should do a Steadicam, and I was like, all right,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
So, as we all know, knowing the equipment is 15-20% of the job.
Yeah.
The rest of it is the interaction.
Absolutely.
And how you interact with people, and why you interact in the way that you do. Because you learn how to speak to the director, producer, actors. And you learn the egos. You learn, and that's the lifelong endeavor of an operator.
Yeah. Is figuring out those. Well, the thing that I find is it's absolutely different on every job, right?
Yes.
And the other thing that I find is that I'll work with the same people, and they'll be different on a different job. Not entirely, but because of who they're working for.
That's
they'll
right.
adjust, and suddenly I'm like, oh, that's not working anymore. So now we got to do this.
That's right. And that's reading the room.
Yeah.
And that's what separates your continued work through not working. Working with Spielberg, you're a certain way.
Yeah.
Working with a comic set, you're a certain way.
Yeah.
You learn how to be you in all those different ways.
Sure.
So to answer your question, because I was the A camera, doing Steadicam, I can't speak for just doing B camera. I don't have the experience to know that, because I always as a Steadicam operator, I would be the A.
But that said, like when there were two cameras and there was the A camera operator and you were the B camera operator,
Yeah.
I mean, were you suggesting shots? Were you waiting to hear your marching orders? Like what was it, or did
Yeah, generally it was, at that point it was just be here and cover this.
Yeah.
And
you'd always be hanging out on set listening and...
For the most part, yeah. Unless I felt that I was in the way.
Yeah, sure.
Which you can be. Because
Absolutely.
sometimes you're like, hey, hey, Spike, hey, Spike, where's my shot, Spike? It's like, shut up.
Go out to the truck right now.
Yeah. And that you can't do that.
Yeah.
You want to be available, but not be persistent.
Yep. Which is a fine line because it's weird.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a thing of I always felt like if I wasn't sort of offering something up, it was like, well, what am I doing here? But then there was a part of me that was like, well, what I'm doing here is not offering stuff up.
Right.
And so it's like, what was that Kenny Rogers song? You got to know when to hold them, when to fold them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's The Gambler.
Yeah. And also you have to know who to ask.
Yes.
Are you asking the DP? Or are you asking the director?
And would that change?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like on with Steven, I'd be watching the setup and whatever. He'd be blocking, with Mitch with the A camera, Mitch Dubin, and he'd be kind of Steven would walk around, and I'd say, and he'd be in his own mind thinking about things and cuts, and I'd say, Steven, excuse me, could you use a medium shot here? And he'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you, thanks.
Yeah.
But it takes a long time to get to that point.
I would imagine you didn't do that on the first day.
I did not.
But actually, to that point, the way you just said that, I'm assuming that that's a very specifically worded
Yes.
way to offer it.
Yeah, it's short, concise, and it's a yes or no.
Yeah.
No, I'm good, thanks.
And it's also not saying, I think you need this.
Yeah,
It's earnestly asking because I don't know what's in your head, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It'd be great if we no.
Yeah.
I was thinking if we no.
No. They don't want to know what you're thinking.
Right.
They want to know what you can do to help the situation.
Could you use a shot here?
Yeah.
Could you use this shot? Yes. I could. No,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
So in that situation, this is jumping ahead, but so Mitch Dubin's the A camera operator. You've got Janusz who's the DP on both of those things, right?
Yeah.
So then do you commit to that, or then do you go to Mitch and go, hey, Steven was thinking we could use this. Is this going to be okay with you? Or I mean, obviously you've probably thought about this ahead of time as far as you're not messing with Janusz's lighting and things like that.
Yeah, because Janusz lights 900 degrees.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
All right, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, and effectively, I know the shot started, and I know that again, it takes years to get to this point, and knowing if I would cause a problem, if I knew that Janusz had an issue, or if there was a 12 by or something behind that shot, it would be like, I'm not even going to offer this.
So I guess that's what I'm getting at. So you've pre-thought those things before you even bring that up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that goes to paying attention, being aware, knowing the script, knowing a cut that could be used, and saving a shot, because if he needs that shot, and Mitch has to go over and do it, now you've wasted 20 more minutes.
You just made their day even longer.
So I've effectively saved them 20 minutes if they can use that shot.
That's an excellent point. And I think for B camera operators, it's one of those things of like you sort of think, okay, is there something that can be used? Is this going to be a problem for the A camera operator? Is it going to be a problem for is it going to be a problem for lighting? Is it potentially going to be a problem for a sound, as far as like Mitch is doing a 20 millimeter and you're pitching 180 millimeter? And then if all those are good, then you can offer it up and say, is this something that has value? And then you're off to the races.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
and to ask you a question about Mitch, I did 2 movies with him before.
So those people don't know him because I haven't had him on the show yet because he's out of town right now.
Yeah.
Mitch Dubin is a phenomenal A camera operator. Has been around forever and has been Spielberg's operator since Saving Private Ryan.
18 movies.
Yeah, a number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I met him on the Avengers, the first Avengers.
Okay.
And just by being nice, very important. Be nice, be cordial, be likable. You're standing with somebody for 12 hours a day. That's a good place to start.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And someone wasn't available for a job. He calls me. He said, do you want to do this job? And it was, you do Steadicam, right? I was like, yeah, I do. So I ended up doing the job with him, and then that led to, So, and as far as not only learning through the years, but building relationships.
Yeah.
And those relationships will always. I've gotten jobs from key grips, production designers, set dressers. So if you are, the way I like to say it is a camera operator, you're kind of an umbrella for the crew. Mm-hmm. You want to protect them. And that means providing as much information as you can to the crew, mm-hmm. which also allows them to be part of the process. Yeah. So set dresser, we're blocking a scene or something, and DP's like, "Get this dresser out of here." Meanwhile, this dresser has 400 novels in it, and it weighs 6,000 pounds. And you look at the set dresser and say, "Yeah, give him the discipline." As
his head is shooting off of his body.
Exactly.
Yeah, you give him a nod of like, "Hang on a second."
Yeah. And then you have those. That's something in your back pocket. Yeah. And then thanking them at the end of the day, being, thanks. I'm so glad you looked at it. I saw that stinger over there, and I was worried about that stinger, and you picked it up. Well, it's my job. It's your job, but thank you. Yeah. I appreciate you being aware.
I think that goes a long, long way. And, the other thing, my dolly grip Steve will do this to me all the time and be like, "You know what, Steve, I'm really sorry, but this dolly track's got to be right up against that tree. And I wish I could bring it over 6 inches, but you're going to have to level it up all this way and whatever." And you look at me and go, "Dave, that's my job. Yeah. Don't worry about it." And but I think that letting them know that, look, I don't want anybody to do more work than they have to, because I have no problem with doing hard work. That's what this job is about. I just have a problem with doing hard work when you don't have to do hard work. I'd rather save it for the good stuff,
Exactly.
And it's just, but sometimes you realize that, unfortunately, that dresser's got to be moved because there's no way around it. But I think if you've done the whole show where you've gone, "Hang on a second, I think we can actually do this around the dresser," then they know that if you need to move the dresser, it's because it has to move, as opposed to doing busy work.
And it takes time to kind of learn that. But I've always, and coming from the grip department and knowing what was asked of me, or okay, we're looking this way. Great, let's put all the 12 bys, all the track, all the carts, then over here. And then next thing, okay, we're looking this way.
Turning around completely, yeah.
Yeah.
And do you, as an A-camera operator, did you try to give people heads up like, "Hey, we got 2 more shots, and then we're going to turn around. We're going to see everything over there if you want to get, a head start on it"?
Like I said, that's the umbrella. Yeah. Because I'm protecting the crew, providing all the information that I can. As soon as I know something, I'll let a department head know. Yeah. If I see the key grip, all the guys are, the crew is putting things over there, and it's just like, let's not do that because we're going to end up being over here. So yeah, the more information you can provide, then, and again, it allows them to feel part of the process. Sure. So it's not like, "Oh, why didn't we know?" Yeah. So and then more people come to you, and then if you don't know, you ask, and that's the AD. It's like, "Look, they're putting all this stuff over here. Are we sure we can do that?" Or, the effects is building all the tanks and blah, blah, blah. It's like, "We're going to see that." "Oh, yeah, we're going to see that, aren't we?" It's like, yes.
And are you constantly working with the AD through the day?
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's that relationship like?
There are good ADs, and there are not. I wouldn't say bad ADs, but ones that have,
like, there are good camera operators or bad camera operators.
Yes.
in every department, right?
Yeah, and it becomes. It comes down to respect. It's simple things. Just like I ask you, the cones should be moved. And it's like, they're going to be moved. And then they're not moved. So that's a concern. Yeah. If it's, 1 second we have a store there that needs to have this, or blah, 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 great, and then the cones are gone.
As long as it happens. Yeah.
And some ADs, I understand that they're under a lot of pressure, and they are. There's a lot of things that they're not focused on, which is where a good second comes in. Yep. So finding a good second you can rely on, depend on. And it comes to building relationships. It comes to how you speak to and how you're spoken to. Yeah.
Is there anything that you do? Like, I don't know. I mean, I have certain sort of things that I do at the beginning of every show to sort of feel out certain departments, and also let people know how I can work with them, and et cetera. Is there anything you do that works for you?
I tell a lot of puns.
Buzz has like the worst puns in the world and one of the driest senses of humor in the world. So I would imagine the first day is probably awkward with the new crew.
Yeah, I mean, I go
Yeah.
deep into dad jokes and the
Okay.
puns, and then you kind of you feel
Is that like a disarming mechanism?
it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and also
It's actually very smart.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they don't know how to take me really.
Yeah.
And then I'll say something that's important or meaningful has to do with the shot.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay.
Oh, he actually wants to do that too. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So that I kind of do that as a test to see how I can get into people's heads,
right.
or after a take or something, I'll throw out a pun, and if an actor jumps on that, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I got something here.
So it's basically like you're kind of keeping like the little notepad of going, okay, that person, we're not talking to that person. We're
Yes.
talking to this person.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
But
then all of a sudden you realize the puns start coming back.
yeah.
Did Buzz hear that one? It's like, oh my gosh.
But it is funny that you bring that up because, and I mean, I joke about it, but I think on some, it depends. Look, every set is a little different. Every crew is a little different. But one of the things that I find sometimes, and maybe I go too far sometimes, as an 8-camera operator, you're a little bit of the cruise director, right?
Yeah, totally.
You're trying to set the tone, and like, you want people to have a good time because you're going to be there for a while, but you don't want them to have such a good time that you're not getting the work done and
Right.
it gets in the way of the actors or whatever. Right. But that's a very funny. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm imagining there are those people that like you throw the pun to and it just like you can see it sailing
Oh,
over their
yeah,
head. And
yeah.
you're like, all right, never mind.
Yeah, but the best part is when someone else sees it and they miss it, and you look at them and they go, yeah.
So yeah, you just double down on that person over
exactly,
there.
you're right. Yeah, totally.
That's great.
Yeah.
What about working with actors? Because you've worked with a couple of big name actors.
Yeah.
How do you figure out who I can work with, how to work with someone, what they need, what they don't need, how involved I am?
Yeah, that's tricky. They're actors and they're movie stars.
Interesting. There's some that cross both.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some that don't understand cameras and why we're doing what we're doing.
And don't want to.
Yeah. And so I'm in my own thing.
Yeah.
And what I say is, if the Mona Lisa had sat 3 feet to the right, she wouldn't have been in the picture. But, it's to the point, overs.
Yeah.
You have two actors talking, and
So you're over the shoulder of one to the other one.
correct. And we have these things called sliders, or overkeepers is what they're first called, or a dolly on a track.
Yep.
Okay. There's only so far you can go left or right until it becomes not an over. It becomes a 50-50, which is, two heads talking in the frame.
From the side.
Or you're seeing the backlight, or you're seeing things because you just can't keep
You're seeing the director in the background.
Correct. And then the other actor who knows what they're doing is trying to get out of the light for the actor.
Yeah.
So at that point, after 2 or 3 takes, when it's, when the question by the director, usually the DP understands it. Oh, geez, come on. The director's like, why aren't we seeing their face?
You mean the director of photography understands what's happening.
Yes.
Like what you're fighting.
Yeah. And hopefully the director understands it
Yeah.
too. And they say, listen, I will show where I'm going. This is the mark.
Yeah.
Even to the point where I will tilt down and tilt back up.
You mean so at the monitor they're seeing like they're on their mark, or they're off their mark, but
Yeah. Like feet off their mark. Yeah. So, those are the tough nuts to crack.
And the tough part about that also is like the director come out and there's now a big thing being made and you're like, look, I have to give you this information, but I don't want to point my fingers at this person. But
Right.
the reality is there's no other way I can give this information but
Right.
point my finger. So how do you pose that? I mean, without, throwing someone under the bus.
Yeah, I think. Okay, I'm not gonna. One of the jobs I was on, I won't say. I won't see the last one or whatever.
No.
I'll say one of the actors.
job.
One of the actors is very much stacking yourself up with.
So it was always being hidden behind the other person.
Correct.
And wasn't because she wasn't hitting her mark, or she was leaning, or
She would lean and not hit her mark.
Because I also do you find this also like there's some actors where you're like, I know the mark's there, but they lean all the time, and so
that's a term I call it, the lean, or the settle.
And it's funny because there are certain actors who will just do that. And it's
and you learn which way they go. So if you're anamorphic and they land and they're in the middle of the frame, and then it's like, why are they in the middle of no? And they lean over the way
they move over.
So you learn that. But it got to the point where the actor would say, "Oh, you mean on that yellow mark I'm supposed to be on? I'm sorry." But then they get in the scene. I get it. They're in the scene. I mean, I totally get it.
Yep.
But I also get that if you're working with Meryl Streep, Tom Cruise, like one of the first things I did with Meryl, she came in a room and I'm pulling her with a Steadicam in a room, and she put her bag down and she put it on the floor. And as she's standing up, she's saying to me, I just met her.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Buzz. I won't do that again. Because she
realizes she's just boned you.
Totally gets it. Yeah. So that line.
That's a consummate professional.
Yeah. And for we're in a tighter shot, and an actress comes in. First time we see her, it's a medium shot. She's in the doorway, and then she comes towards the camera to, rough up her daughter who's in a bed, like, oh, ha, 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 laughing. Well, there's a way to do that without jerking your head all over the place, because I can't keep you in frame for the before. I don't know where you're going, and your head's down, looking at your hair. I'm not seeing your face. There's a way to come in there and act excited without moving in quite such a jerky way, and when you can't help them, hopefully they will see it and then learn from seeing it. But there is a fine line with that.
So let me ask you a question. Meryl Streep, she's a consummate professional, obviously. She knows what she's doing, obviously. So she knows to come in and do that way. A younger actor who doesn't, would you step in and give them that, or would you go to the director and go, hey, I think if we can get them not to play the frame as much, or
I think it would depend upon what day, how deep in it was.
Gotcha.
Sometimes you come out of the box a little too heavy.
Yeah.
So I would go to the director and say, how do you want me to handle that?
Yeah.
Are you going to cover this wider? Mm-hmm. Or do you need me to tilt down for that, or boom down?
Can I not get this in this, because you'll be in the wider shot?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, giving an option to the director.
Exactly.
And so you're not saying she can't go down like that. It's like,
scream it from the camera.
Do you want her to go down like
again.
that? Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Right. You can't.
Anybody listening, don't do that.
And you can't go. Come on, jeez. I've done that, but it was easier with mask on. But so I would probably go to the director at that point.
Yeah.
If it was 3 or 4 weeks in or whatever, I had now built some sort of rapport with the actor.
Yep.
I would say, are you going to put the bag down? You could just put it on the table, and they could, Oh yeah, of course.
Just let me know what you're going to do so I can follow you.
Right.
I remember on West Wing, I'm usually pretty good when I've completely screwed up about not vocalizing it.
Yeah.
But I remember on West Wing, Brad Whitford was leaning down and putting something down, and he was standing back up, and I took him down, and then as I came up, I totally screwed up the shot, and I just went, and he just looked straight in the camera, and he goes, well, apparently Dave needs another one. And I was like, and then I realized, like, oh God, that wasn't my internal monologue. That was out loud.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think it was Tommy Shalami was directing. He was like, yeah, we know that back here. Why don't we just do that again?
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Thankfully, though, it's with an actor who's, is funny and smart and gets it.
Yeah.
But and then again, for younger operators, because we had to learn this the hard way, if it is an actor who's constantly stacking up, do you go to the DP and the director and go, look, I think we got to put a piece of track down or something because they're just never going to hit that? Or do you want to talk to them about hitting that mark because, so that it takes you out of that process of having to say.
And again, I put it on them. So say, we have a couple options here. Which one would work the best, do you think?
Yep.
So we could do a sandbag. We could have the stand-in pushing them over.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's funny you were saying about having a slider and finding them, because I'm of two camps of that. Because on the one hand, obviously you can usually find the shot, But then on the other hand, it's like you're constantly doing that creep to find it. And there's almost part of me that doesn't want to put it on because then it's like, no, you have to hit the mark.
Yeah, and I've more recently, I am on a dolly.
Yeah.
No slider in the wheel.
Because if you get the slider on, it's almost your fault at that point.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, why doesn't that thing just go farther over that way
Right.
or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and then you're constantly chasing it. It's yeah.
And then anymore, you have another camera right next to you.
Yeah.
So you'll have one on the inside, one on the outside.
Yep.
You know, tighter, and then we're both not getting
You're
the
both
shot.
clunking into
Yeah,
each other or whatever.
Why can't we see your face? You guys have to move. It's like, yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly. What do you? Well, at your point, where you are in your career now, obviously you probably don't do this, but for younger operators, you know, or maybe when you were waiting for the next movie to come into town, right? You can't really go out and practice. You can practice Steadicam, but you can't do overs, and you can't do. What do you do in between to learn about framing, to practice framing, to to hone your craft?
Yeah, I think the best way is a still camera
Yeah,
because that is the frame.
just take pictures.
Yeah, take pictures and what you like and what you don't like. You know, do a frame which you're putting actors on the far side of the frame and you're wide, and you also get a sense of how tight on an actor you can be based on the lens size, and what's comfortable and what's not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So, someone's looking at I'll do this all the time. Someone's looking at the shot, and that the stand-in's in one place. That's another thing about stand-ins. Every stand-in, if they're at a dinner table, will sit back and they're leaning back in the chair and they're slumped down like this.
Yeah.
And you have to say, "Excuse me, Billy, did you see how they were sitting in the chair?"
Yeah.
What? Yeah. They were sitting up and they're sitting forward because if you're...
I need you sitting the way that they were actually sitting.
The BNC camera comes in there and they set up the dolly and they realize that, the chassis is against the wall.
Yep.
And then the actor goes in there and it's like clunk, clunk. You can't get around anymore.
Yep.
Whose fault's that?
Yeah.
Well, that is,
Well, the thing that I always tell younger operators is height is one thing. Someone who's 6'4" is 6'4". Torsos are different. So when they're sitting in the car behind the steering wheel, I'll always say to the AD ahead of time, look, are they going to line it up with the actor first, or we got to get them next to each other and figure it out? Because otherwise, I guarantee you that actor's going to come out and we're locked on the car, and that steering wheel is going to be a bad place.
Yeah.
Because it's something you learn really quickly. Is seated positions are very different. I will say, there are certain stand-ins who are like that, but on the flip side, there's some stand-ins I've worked with who will absolutely save my butt.
Of course.
Especially the ones who are connected to big actors who are with them all the time, who will go, I know he put the phone down and then he sat down, but I'm just going to show you him sitting down and putting the phone down because I guarantee he was going to do that.
Yeah, of course.
Or whatever, because they know them better than you do, by a long shot.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is about doing that. But I like the idea of the still camera because do you still do that? Do you find yourself doing that?
I'm fortunate to be working a lot.
That's true.
So I haven't had to in a long time, but Steadicam is still just a series of still. Everything. Dolly, just a series of still
connecting still cameras.
Yeah. So and not just take them for yourself, but if you have, a partner or a mother, father, whatever, a brother, sister, take pictures and say, "What do you think of this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Does this quote unquote speak to you?
Yeah.
Try
to tell a story with the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, could you get away? Because another thing that's lost these days, instead of setting up 3 cameras on 3 different angles and, just shooting long lenses, is blocking actors.
Yeah.
You can do a scene where you're moving the camera maybe 6 feet, but you have 5, 6, 7 different complete shots in that. How you blocking your actors?
Yep.
Blocking, one of the great example of that is in in Jaws when they're crossing on the ferry, where an actor will walk to the lens and then turns around. Roy Scheider walks into his close-up, and then all of a sudden then someone falls into that 50-50. Now you have a 3 shot, and then the woman comes in. It's just like,
have you ever seen that dolly shot it's like in a police office in Squadron or whatever in Sneakers that Doc Carmen did. John Lindley was the DP. Doc was the operator. It's this. Not a lot of people know it, but it's 3 people in a scene, and they're interrogating Robert Redford, who's sitting down, and it's a dolly shot that just moves sort of from side to side and booms down and in and out. but because of the way it's blocked, it all plays as one, and all the coverage is there. It's amazing. I'll send it to you. It's one of those things that Lindley taught me this very, very early on, is like, if you block it correctly, it shoots itself.
Yeah.
And if you block it incorrectly, you can't shoot it.
Right.
Like, you can get all the pieces, but it's just going to be clunky. And so if you spend more time blocking it correctly and it works, then it sells itself, and you know exactly what to do.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was one of those shots. You're probably familiar with rule of thirds, golden ratio, all that stuff. Do you ever think about that?
No.
I have yet to find anybody who goes, let me land this up according to the golden. Like, sometimes I'll look at it and I'll go, oh, I think I just did this.
Yeah.
And then I'll pull up a YouTube video and watch it and go, I did do that.
The only time I think about that is with the eyes with an actor.
Where the eyes are in a frame?
Yeah.
You think about the rule of thirds or golden?
Rule of thirds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because if you're just above the rule of thirds, it's very uncomfortable to watch.
If the center of your frame is above it, or you mean if the camera is above it?
Yeah, if the eyes are just above that third, they're just in that weird area, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Which you can use to your advantage, actually.
That's right.
It's understanding that, yeah.
And also, if you're shooting an actor who's putting their head down in a conversation, like at a table, and they're looking down, and they look back up, and they're looking down, I don't correct for that headroom.
Yeah.
Because I find it distracting when you're cutting back and forth. Uh-huh. So if you cut back and you're always tilting up when that actor's doing it, it becomes.
Yep.
So if you're worried about kind of where that's happening, no one's going to notice. What I'll do is I'll kind of shake the camera to back up 3 inches, back up 3 inches. They kind of shake.
So they don't see behind the monitor.
Yeah. So you're backing
now
up.
people are going to listen to this and you're in
I
trouble.
know.
Buzz, don't pull the camera back. We know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But we all do it.
Yeah. So, all those little adjustments can be made without people noticing them.
Yeah.
Just backing up. If you're on a Zoom, just maybe creep it out or creep in if you're in that uncomfortable zone.
So that you can hold the frame and they can play the frame, as opposed to having to tilt up and tilt down with them as they lean up.
Yeah. And also, and that's the same with actors. If you let them play the frame more, it makes the audience work in a theater. Yeah. Because if you're not moving the frame and the actor's moving back and forth, the people who are watching are moving their heads back and forth. Yeah. So you're including the audience in that action. But if you're correcting or panning with them all the time, then you're looking in one spot.
Well, it's like the opening shot in Lawrence of Arabia. That top shot where he's walking in and out of the frame to the car. Yeah. It's like, could you imagine if that had been panning with him?
Right.
Back and forth? It'd be a totally different, different film. Yeah. But there's so much going on in it, and you said something interesting, which I think is so much about operating is everything that you're trying to do is to not make people think about what you're doing. Right. So it's based on their movement, and it's dictated by their movement or dictated by the story or whatever. Yeah. And every time you pop out of that, it just clunks.
Yeah. And if you think of the edit, again, knowing when that cut's going to happen or when you think that's going to happen, even if you're confused and saying, like, you go to the director and say, when do you think you're going to cut to this? Yeah. Because I need to be here. I need to be there, because the pace of the scene can be ruined by a decision you made or didn't make.
Absolutely.
But me may not have known that.
Yeah.
So it takes years to kind of get to that point where you think, that they're going to be, this isn't going to work.
Do you watch the stuff that you've shot after the fact and sort of go, oh yeah, I was right about that. Oh, I didn't realize that we're going to do that. Or like, do you use that as a check to see whether your thinking was right about how things are going to play?
Yeah, and sometimes I go, oh, now I get it.
It's a Western.
Yeah. But, of course. Yeah. Yeah, you like to go, yeah. All right.
Do you have trouble watching your own stuff?
I don't.
You don't?
Yeah.
You can get lost in the story?
Yes, and then, I'll watch, of course, I did that. Oh, geez.
Every time I watch something, all I think is, oh, they used that take, they used that take, they used that take. And then my wife will go, so basically they never use the take that you like? And I'm like, no, there's just never a take I like.
My one line is, I just don't want to wake up 10 years from now from a nap and see that on TV and go, I can't watch that. It's going to make me very upset.
Yeah. That's great. I like that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about, you have taught the crane workshop for the SOC, and you actually are teaching another one coming up, which I might be teaching with you, hopefully.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, everybody will know whether that happened or not, I guess. And maybe someone will tell us whether it was good or it was terrible.
Right.
You guys were drunk most of the time, but otherwise.
That's right. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the SOC, because you're involved in it, and what you think is important about it, and about and along with that, newer operators. Because one of the things that I find is with newer operators is they don't get it takes a while to get some crane time, right? So is there a way to figure that out ahead of time, and or how do you get on those headsets and start talking a dolly grip through a 50-foot techno crane shot for the first time?
Yeah, you don't. Really, you don't. That's the problem. Hopefully you're working with an A-camera operator who would say, listen, I got to finish this scene. Can you go over, make sure everything's good over there?
Go set up the techno crane ahead of time.
Yeah. Generally, with the key grip, will know where the base is going. The base is that's the thing. You know, sometimes the base can't go where you need it to be, and I could go on for days about.
Well, let me ask you a small question about that. Let's say you're deciding where the base is.
Yeah.
What's your criteria for where the base is based on the shot?
First criteria is if you're on a 50-foot crane, 50-foot techno.
So we're talking about techno crane, an extendable
or movie
crane.
bird or scorpion.
Yeah, some sort of extendable crane.
The least, the most direct line that the crane can make to the post for the most part of the shot is where I put it. How do I describe that? Yeah. For example, if you extend your arm, okay, and your eyes are behind your shoulder looking at a long arm in front of you, and your thumb is where the camera is. Uh-huh. And the actor or car or whatever is directly straight ahead from that.
Yep.
If that car is coming towards you and you can then retract the lens
on that same line. Yep.
For as long as possible, that allows a lot of things to be easier than not easier. Once you start to arm to track a vehicle straight, because of the arc of that arm, you're going to come off of axis. You're going to get parallax, which, that means the lens is now tracking right or left, causing the background to go right or left based on that thing moving towards you. So the more I can be in a position where there's less of parallax or less of arcing.
So less arm swing.
The better. Now, because of these cranes now, they have programmable. So if you have a 50-foot arm, 45, I think the movie bird, you can extend that arm all the way out and then pan if it was to the left of your 180 axis. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know we're getting technical here.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah. I'm actually doing it. You can't see me doing it, but Dave's going,
it looks really good.
Yeah. So as you're arming right to stay without getting a parallax, you can retract the arm as it's going in that direction. And then as it breaks 180, you can extend the arm.
Yep.
And you can program it to do that. Yes, I will explain this when you take the class, and we can all understand.
But basically, in a nutshell, you're going, what is the largest part of the shot that the arm can stay straight retraction or extension, if that's the case?
That's right.
As opposed to having it from the side, where to make that same line, you would have to swing the arm, and the guy in the pickle, which is extending and retracting, would have to judge that it's exactly in the same line. It's just much harder to do that. And even they have the programmable things, and they're great, but I always assume the programmable part is going to break.
Yeah, or so kill somebody because
I don't rely on it. So it's sort of like but that's so basically the more that it's in a straight line, the better.
Right.
Headsets on operators. Not talking about remote heads. I'm just talking about general. You're an A-camera operator on the dolly. Headsets.
If everyone understands that during the shot, that's my time. Don't bother me.
Should you take them off?
I don't.
Okay. But
I will make sure that, once the shot's over, then you can talk to me. If you're talking to me during the shot, you've pulled me out of the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't do that unless we're in the scene and it's, it's a lock off and the DP's back there going, this is,
Buzz, why do we take this job?
that's different.
That's different, yeah.
But if you have somebody saying, no, tilt up, no, they have to
The
tilt
shot's
up
already
the
gone.
pen. It's like, really?
Yep.
You know what? You do it.
Yep.
You operate.
I haven't ground this axe in a while, but I will because I try to get it in everyone. My big thing, and I don't know if you've noticed this, is I'm very anti headsets, but I find that, and this is the main reason why, I find that younger camera operators who are coming up wearing headsets are becoming reactive.
Yeah, right.
Because they're not being thrown out there like we were thrown out there and having to figure it out. They're waiting to hear.
Right.
And I've noticed it like very specifically with some B camera operators, and I've said to a couple DPs, like, look, if you really want this person to become a good operator, and the things that you're frustrated about, by the way, are because they're on headsets.
Yeah.
Because they're expecting you to tell them what to do.
Well, that's the same theory with the they operator.
With what?
A they operator.
What's a they operator?
Well, they didn't say it was bad.
Oh.
Well, they didn't say anything. I didn't hear from them.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. Must be
That's
okay.
great.
They didn't say anything. Should I talk to them? I surely would have heard from them. It's like, no, don't be the operator.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you're like, I don't know, I liked it, I guess.
Yeah, right.
I'm happy.
And it's important. It's too bad because, actors are now like, cut. Whereas the director says nothing.
Yep.
Let's go again.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Yeah.
Yeah. But don't be a they operator. Own it. If you say, well, that was that, we have to go again. Not at, what are you talking? Or okay, great. Let's move on. Own it.
Own it.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You're a newer operator. You got a big techno crane shot. You've got a great dolly grip. You as the A camera operator sort of have to drive the bus a little bit, but you know that this dolly grip knows a lot more than you do about it.
Yeah.
So do you go in and go, okay, I think the base should be here? Or do you ask them and let them dictate where it is and hope that they're right? Or
yeah,
what do you do?
I talk about where the camera has to go. So I need the camera to go from there,
that tree down to
that
this
tree
doorstep
down to there. I'm thinking that the base should be here because now all you're doing is you're booming down, retracting, and then you're panning the arm left.
Yeah.
Now, if there's power lines or something that they can't do that, then the base can't be there. Now, they're like, well, we can't put the base there. Locations, blah, 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 blah. Or
There's quicksand.
yes. Yeah, exactly. So then it's, okay, well, I need to get the camera from there to there. Can we do that? Hopefully you know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But at least it involves them in the conversation. And
So as a younger camera operator, though, you would just go, okay, we've got to start here, we've got to come down here, we've got to end here. What do you think?
yeah,
And just let them go with that.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will tell you at the point where I'm at, I will generally do that at this point, having the idea of where I think the base should be, but not saying it because I'm hoping that when they'll come up with the same thing, because then I know it's the right place.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then I'll go, really? Because I was thinking the base should be over there, but why are you thinking it's better over here? And then they'll usually go, well, because, I mean, if like Steve, my dolly grip would go, I know it's going to be better over there, but this is going to be almost as good. And if this director who's been changing every shot on us wants us to go over there, and oh, you know what? You're right. You're right, Steve. Put it over here. We're fine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you'd be surprised. You're thinking one thing, and it's like, this is the way it's to do. And then dolly grips, well, why don't you just put the thing on the thing and do the thing?
Yeah. Because you get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
I mean, and you get, and that's usually what a good dolly grip is great for, is just a second set of eyes for moving the camera.
Yeah.
We skipped ahead though, which is fine, but tell me just about the SOC and why you're involved in it and whether people should be, what they get out of it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. SOC, Society of Camera Operators. It's an organization that effectively promotes operators. And that means there are many DPs who operate, which is their choice. I think that they're missing out on a lot of collaboration, a lot of things that I'm not going to say make the shots better, but I think could ease the burden of the director of photography.
I think the simple way to do it is those are two full-time jobs, and for one person to do it, they're definitely getting pulled in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Which there's stuff being sacrificed, which may or may not show up on the final screen, but it's a lot for one person to do.
Yes. So my involvement is more so for I just feel that I need to pay it back. The more I can do to inspire, to help, to aid, mentor a younger operator, the better I feel about my career, because it's a lifelong endeavor, and I will never be done learning. I will never be done understanding, collaborating, and then based on story, based on script, based on someone saying something, your attitude about a script could completely change through your own life experience. Mm-hmm. So as you get older, you're going to operate differently from when you first started. So panning and tilting with the equipment that you have, that's a basic necessity to then use those tools to interpret a script. And you'll find that, like I said, you'll be operating a shot early on in your career, and 15, 20 years later, you'll say, I never would have operated this shot like that. I've operated like this. And as long as I can say that to somebody,
yeah,
and as long as they understand that and really believe that, you're going to grow through your career. And the more I can establish that idea in a young operator, that you're not going to know everything the first week, the first month, the first year, the first 2 years, 3 years.
5 years, 10 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to think you might after 6 years. And you might, get an attitude like, well, I did this movie, that movie, this, well, I can do this and that. You know what? You're really limiting yourself into learning from other people, learning from anybody who may have a suggestion. So the SOC for me allows me to do that, to kind of put those slots into operators coming up, and also saying that you have support. We're here to help you.
Yep.
You have a question, we're available, email, text.
People call you up?
Yeah, I have. The last 6 months I had 4 mentees.
Yeah.
And then in fact I had another one who was from London.
Wow.
I was one of the first. I was the first mentor that the ACO had, and that mentee came over and visited me.
Oh, no way! That's cool.
In New York.
Yeah, but they have the mentorship program, and they also have great videos, and they have these classes, like they have handheld classes and crane classes.
So to get in as a student, yes, we have on the website there is the membership portal, which has. Oh, I don't know how many hours of.
I know, it's amazing. I haven't even seen most of them yet.
Yeah, and all great. Very operators have been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah, and I think it's what they have: how to shoot action, how to work with a director, how to work with a dolly grip, how to do concept shots, you name it.
That's right. Yeah, and then if you to watch those videos, that's one thing, but to do a live, to be at a workshop and to see how. So when I set up my area or my thing, I'll make sure that I'll be vocal with the dog how it would actually happen on set. I turn it. Yep. You have 12 feet of track here. Yeah. You got the jib arm. Yeah, I got the jib arm. Is it upstairs already? It's up here. Great.
Yeah.
You think we need a 12-foot arm on this? Where are we going? Get the tape measure comes out. It's gonna go here, but just give me another 3 feet that way. So okay, so we should probably get another 4 feet of track. Yeah, go 4 feet of track. So to have students hear that discussion,
absolutely,
and then all of a sudden you're on a jib arm that's on a dolly. That's a lot harder than a 50-foot techno. Yeah, because things happen a lot faster.
Yeah, and because of the smaller arc, everything's back panning and you name it.
That's right.
It's like I talk to people about that what is it called, the mini techno, that like 8 foot to 15 foot, which is really like 9 foot to 14 foot.
Yeah,
and because of how small it is. you almost can't do arcs with it very well
That's
because
right.
the back pan is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another thing for another time.
So yeah, that's we're SOC is here to help, and it's also here to promote operating with the awards.
It's a great organization, and a lot of people who help each other, and a lot of people get a lot of help out of it.
Yeah.
So it's good. Cocaine Bear, come on, spill.
Yeah, I was. I'd done 3 movies with Elizabeth Banks. She was as an actress.
Yeah.
And she was directing this thing, and I was on the short list for operators to go over, and we shot that in Ireland. I don't know if people realize that.
So you never worked with her as a director, just as an actress.
Correct.
And so she obviously trusted you.
Yeah. And John Golisarian, the DP, had asked me a couple times to work with him on jobs, and I wasn't available.
Yeah.
And I think he emailed me, and within 3 minutes, I was like, yes.
Just because of the words Cocaine Bear?
Cocaine Bear, Ireland,
Cocaine
Elizabeth
Bear,
Banks.
Ireland.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we shot over there. It was just the crew over there. I'm not taking away anything from American crews, but boy, they were great. They work differently over there. So the grips are basically camera support,
Yeah.
and the electricians do, flags and lighting and everything that involves the lighting. My deli grip, Richie, is Richie Egan, and Philip Murphy is the key grip. So Philip has all the cranes. He has.
Okay.
I mean, he's like got everything.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, well, I think we could get the 50-foot mate the whole job. So basically, we had the technical crane the whole time, and that was a fun job. Yeah, and with Weta doing the effects. Weta's huge visual effects out of New Zealand.
That's great.
Yeah, that was a fun job.
How many years had you been operating when you got the call to work with Spielberg on West Side Story?
27.
And were you nervous?
Yes. Yeah, the first shot was the first shot on that was the first day of shooting. I'd never worked with Spielberg, never worked with Janusz and Mitch I'd known.
Yeah.
And a lot of the crew members on that I'd worked with before.
But I would imagine a lot of those people are regulars, right?
Not in New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because when we goes to New York, he hires local because he doesn't want to spend, he doesn't want to bring people in. He brings in
there's a handful of department heads and whatnot.
Correct.
Mitch.
Generally, first AD Mitch, Mark Spath,
sure.
the first AC, and Adam Sumner, who's the first AD. And then everyone else is, there because they've been doing it for some time and understand it.
But they're all top of the game anyway.
Yeah, that first shot was, Tom Hanks and Bob Odenkirk and a number of other big actors. And the first shot was a low.
Oh, wait, that was the post.
That was a post.
Oh, did you do the post before
West Side Story.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said West Side. Okay, the post. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah,
First day.
First day, it was like, Mitch is like, oh, Steven, this is Buzz. And he's like, oh, have we worked together? And I was like, nope, I haven't worked together. He goes, oh, okay. So now I see him with the finder. Steven's a finder. Basically put the lens on the viewfinder and walk around. So I see him crouching over and doing this long tracking shot. And
this isn't a video finder, so you're not seeing exactly what he's saying.
That's right. I saw 25 millimeter.
Okay.
And I'm thinking low. So that means 25 millimeter low mode Steadicam. That is the worst thing ever.
Day one.
Yeah.
First shot. Great.
So it's probably a 30-foot tracking shot, which is sideways with foreground and wide background, and
Not an
actors
easy shot.
walking a distance.
Yeah.
So then that's just the first part. Now I go around somebody and I go into this office. Go to an office. Tom then sits on a desk. I wrap around Tom. I'm slowly booming up to a 4-shot. So it's a raking shot of Tom with these other 4 actors. He stands up, walks over to the page boy, calls the page boy at the door, has a discussion with the page boy. I'm pushing past Tom to the page boy. Page boy goes out to the elevator with his jacket and goes off to New York and does something.
So it's an easy opening day.
Yeah, it's basically 3 scenes in one shot. We do a couple rehearsals, and I kind of peek my head in the door. There, Janusz and Steven are in this other little office. I peek in and said, "But how are we doing?" It looks like, oh no, it's great. Okay, great. Okay, close the door. So now I'm walking over, standing there.
Okay.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
And Ricky Mariquin, who was the dolly grip on the job, I'd done a couple of jobs, and walks up. He's like, Mo, you got this, Mo. They have that support.
That's the best.
They have the support. Having gone through 3 or 4 movies with somebody.
But he clearly saw in your face that you were
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is you said 27 years, you've done big things.
Yeah.
But it still gets in your head, right?
Of course.
And we get in our own heads.
Yeah.
As I think that younger operators don't think that happens. And it never, at least for me, it never stops.
Yeah, I think you need it.
Yeah.
I think you need that. It's not doubt. It's just, I think it's verification for yourself.
Yeah. And it's not, can I pull this off? It's, am I going to pull it off this time?
Yeah, sure.
You know? Or
yeah.
like, what am I not going to pull off? Like,
right.
I know I'm not going to like trash this shot. It's going to work on some level, but am I going to nail all the pieces that I want?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about Steadicam is it's so much can go wrong so quickly.
Absolutely.
You know, but then some things can go so right that
where
you didn't expect.
Clicks. Yeah.
Yeah. And some days it's working, some days it's not working.
Look, I've been operating for 34 years or something like that. And we're in the middle of a strike, and our good friend Charles Pappert just called me the other day. I was telling you to do this short film for him, and it was like basically 3 Steadicam shots. And the biggest one had a ton of different points to it and this and that and the other, but I had to go through these 2 kitchen doors, which are these swinging doors, and I had like 6 inches on either side. And the first one I was getting through, and the second one I was hitting it every single time.
The sled or your body?
The sled, because I had to get the sled out in front of me to get through it. But I couldn't figure it out. I wasn't judging. I think I wanted a frame, and where I wanted the frame, I couldn't get the camera without hitting it. And so I kept on going for the frame I wanted, and I wasn't thinking about it. Granted, for reference, it was also all night, and I hadn't been working nights, so I'm just giving myself some.
Okay.
But that said, I mean, I must have blown this shot like 5 times by hitting that door in different, or not being right on or whatever. And I was completely beating myself up over it. And I'm thinking to myself, this is like a freebie for a friend, but still you want to nail it, and it's like inexcusable that you're not nailing the part that you want,
Yeah. And I think that's why, the people that are fortunate to get to where they are, the guys that are working all the time, guys and girls working all the time, it's not that you're beating yourself up. I think it's more of, it's like, why can't I do this? Just like, this is not hard. I've done this so many times, so it's.
But that's what also makes you break it down and go, okay, I know that there's a reason for that. I know there's a reason I'm hitting that door.
Yeah, correct.
I just have to figure out what that reason is. And eventually I did, and I didn't hit the door anymore.
Yeah.
But it forces you, because I think what it does is it makes you go, I know the answer to this. I just I'm not thinking about it correctly.
Right.
And that's what our job is figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's most of what we do.
And it could be simple. And the other thing is how to solve that problem, because it may not be you. It may be this. We move the actor 3 feet this way.
That's true. Yeah.
Because then, I don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm not have to pay it.
Everything lines up, and I don't have to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you learn that through, the way that shot's set up, and you don't want to move the actor, but it's like, can we just put them upstage 2 feet so I'm not having.
Is it going to change anything? Is this going to be a problem for lighting? Is it going to be a problem for anybody else?
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prep. What do you do before you start a job?
I'll get a script. I'll read a script.
Yeah.
And then it's gotten to the point where I can read a script and say, there's 3 Steadicam shots in this job. It's perfect. I can sit in the truck. I can do whatever.
And I'm C camera.
Yeah. Right. But then there's jobs where it's like, okay, we got some things here. And then you make the phone call. Hey, scene 56 with the thing. Oh, yeah.
That's to the DP, you mean?
Yeah. We're still kind of up in the air about that one.
Yeah.
We're trying to think about the blah, 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 blah. And then you say, well, have you ever thought about, could we, we starting, and then it's like, oh, yeah, I'm thinking of that, So then you get your kind of mind, then you start to get excited.
Yeah.
Or you're just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be absolutely terrible.
It's going to be horrible.
So I'll get a script, read the script. And then, and it honestly comes down to finances. It comes down to what the rates. I mean,
that's you're talking about making your deal, yeah.
Yeah, but that's all.
Yeah, sure.
That's part of prep.
True. Yeah. Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah,
I was thinking after you got the job, but you're right. Yes.
I wouldn't be on the job to prep. So and that's important. You can't sell yourself short. I mean, yeah, sure. Oh, it's a passion project.
Well, it's a good point, because what I have always thought is there's which, granted, maybe this is just specific to Steadicam operators a little bit, because as a camera operator, it's sort of like this is what it is most of the time. But but let's say it's a tier movie, right? And there's before you make the deal, when you kind of hem and haw and bitch and I don't know if but then once you've made the deal, you've accepted it, and and every job is the same,
right?
You know, it's you can't go in and go, this Steadicam shot is ridiculous, but I'm not getting paid enough for this. It's like, you took the job.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, the deal's done, you're right. You know, generally I get the script first, do the deal, and then now I start to think about, anymore I don't read into, I just kind of go in as I've done Buzz Moyer.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be the puns. I'll go in. You know, so my prep is, equipment wise, the assistants pretty much take care of all that. We have the luxury of, the Steadicam goes, it gets sent away, and then all of a sudden they're okay. Where's this? Where's that? Then you go to prep for 4 hours. And you have the coffee and smooze with everybody, and you build the rig, and you go, that's great.
Do you try to meet with the director and the DP? Well, let's say it's a feature.
Yeah, no, because if it's the DP, if it's a new DP, there'll probably be a Zoom or something of that nature along.
But do you talk about framing and whatnot, or you watch other stuff they do, or you try to get a feeling for what they like, or do you just go in day one and figure you're going to find this together?
Well, there's the Bible, the lookbook. You get the color swatches and kind of ideas, and I think. I'm just going to say this. I think that really is more for the director and the DP to build a relationship in the first 5-6 weeks of prep. Yeah. So once you're in it, it's like, you can maybe refer to, remember that shot you did in that one with the thing? Maybe we start here. We could keep that frame in for this moment, and then just push past that. Mm-hmm. So we've established that kind of feel you like, but we'll just push past. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Or just little dolly moves. That's kind of just, a 4-foot move can change a wide shot. Significantly, just with what foreground is or what you're revealing on more windows come into a shot or something in the background, something like that. So, I don't sit down and take notes, but I'll be laying in bed and I'll think of scene 41 and I'll think, hey, what if they thought about that? That'd be kind of fun. Or I wonder what
do you see it when you're reading it?
Yes,
you do.
Yeah. Yeah,
I sort of do that as well, and then I try to throw it out
because you want to go in cold. I like to go in cold. Yeah,
it's like I sort of want to have something in the hip pocket, but I want to hear what they want first, because it's basically I'm telling their story, not mine.
That's right.
Which is tough sometimes, because sometimes they don't have their story.
Right. Yeah, that's one of those tough.
So on that note, what do you do when the director has an idea, and you've got something that's much better?
Yeah, and in that case, I will watch what the DP's doing or what they're saying, because hopefully you have. And it's the thing; it's always different. The DP may know more than the director, and they're kind of just doing everything, and the director wants to work with the actors, or the director says, no, this is the lens, this is the shot, light it, blah, 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 this is where I want to be. So it kind of depends upon who you're working with. Yeah. But if you have a director who is not as sophisticated with things, and they're coming up with the idea, of course you want to do everything possible to have that, make that vision, because you may not, even if you say it's better, it may not be better based on something that they're. You
think it's better, but it may not be what they're going for.
And better is relative. And
it's absolutely right. So, well, as Steadicam operators, I think we do know.
Exactly.
I mean, let's face it, between you and I.
So I think for me, it comes down to efficiency. Yeah. So can we do this shot efficiently so that we can still get to do the two scenes before we have to go home? So in combining things, like combining shots, just saying, well, I could start here, they could walk to a 50-50, I could come to this over, and then when they could turn around, we get the single. Yeah.
So you only own one more shot.
Yeah, great. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. We've done that. But if they're like, no, I need this is the scene that has to have this and that, because that's tying in with the first scene and that relationship, whatever. So things that I haven't seen or thought about. Yeah. So there's that fine line. Yep. And then sometimes, like you said, if I'm watching the show and I was like, oh,
now I get it.
I see. Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
Or by the way, the other way, which is you remember what they said and you're like, yeah, that didn't work.
Yeah, right.
I know we did that, but I was right.
Yeah, that's right.
So what do you do when the DP and the director are not playing well together and you're in the middle? DP's selling you one thing, director's selling you another thing.
Yeah, I'll kind of call them out on that.
But you just take them aside and go, look, I don't know what you want me to do, but I think we got to have some consensus.
Yeah, again, it's. I'm concerned that we're not, or can you please explain to me why we're doing it this way?
Or I'm confused by
exactly.
Yeah, you put it on yourself.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. You don't say, well, he wants me,
Yeah.
she wants me to do this, and you're saying,
Yeah, that doesn't work well.
yeah,
Yeah.
And hopefully you have at least 2 or 3 jobs with one of either.
That's actually what the first thing most people go, they go, who hired you?
Yeah, right.
And then it does change. I mean, you still want to do what you're talking about, but it does change things a little bit, right? Because I've been on the thing where the director comes in and is like, yeah, give me a close-up right here. And then the walk-away and the DP is like, do not do that.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay.
Right.
Yeah. And then you gotta figure out what you're going to do there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would I do there? I would do it the way I would probably lean towards the other one who hired me, but I would lean more towards the DP
Yeah.
because then it's their fight to fight with the director.
Yeah, and probably I would say in that situation, what I'd probably do is go pull the dolly back a little bit, and I'd do the old tilt down to the ground, fix something while I pull the dolly back, do it, and then if the director comes out and goes, "Why are we that? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this is what you were asking for."
Yeah, right.
And then hope that maybe the DP intervenes or
Yeah,
something
right.
like that. But at least maybe that way you get both. But it is a tough situation sometimes where neither of them want to step up and fix it, and you do have to step off and say,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm giving us everything we can. What can we do about coming together on what we want or something like that?
Yeah. And that's the hard part about operating.
It's 100% the hard part about operating.
That's and then the other thing is, okay, bring in the B camera, and the actors are kind of milling around set. The B camera comes in, and the dolly track is in there, and the dolly goes on, and it's the wrong way. And then like, oh gosh, then you do the shot, the over is like an ear, they're like, I can't move any farther.
Yeah,
It's like,
and nothing works, and everything's just falling, and then everybody's looking at you, thinking that it was your fault.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, those are the worst. And you just kind of like, oh my gosh.
There's no question. Look, this is one of the things that I tell people about is like the reason that you're hiring me is for not when everything's going well, because when everything's going well, anybody can do it.
Right.
It's for when everything's falling apart. That's why
right.
you want to hire me.
Yeah.
And it's the truth. I mean, hopefully everything's going well because you're doing your job, but it's when it's falling apart.
Yeah, it's not an easy job. Another great thing you hear is I've had a couple of assistants that worked with for multiple jobs, and then they start operating and they get the phone call. Dude, I had no idea. I mean, operating's impossible. Yeah. And it looks glamorous. We get paid very well to do Steadicam.
Yeah.
But all of us have gone through just nights of not sleeping, fearful, just being, doubting yourself. Should I tilt?
Yep.
And the actor goes out of frame. Should I?
Yep.
We've all gone through that.
Or like you were saying, like when someone stands up in a close-up and they start to move, you're trying to judge. You don't want to jump them, and you don't want to be too late.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of figure out when they're going to move. There's a lot of stress. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But it's what makes it fun at the same time.
That's right.
It's good stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you can't, some people can't handle it.
Yeah. No.
Have
you ever been fired?
I have never been fired.
You have never been fired. You're the guy. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm not going to ask you that question.
Yeah.
So that means basically you've got a little bit longer to work. Because the thing I've always been told is if you haven't been fired, then you haven't been working long enough.
That's right.
So
yeah, this will be what I bought 1989.
Wow.
I bought my first
well
rig.
done. That says something. Good job.
Yeah, I've
Nice.
never been fired. But you know what? I've never wanted. My career is different in that I've always picked the jobs I wanted to do.
You're lucky that way, yeah.
And because I didn't want to be, and I hate to say be the guy or be the girl or be the, I always thought I had time.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not in a hurry to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that was my best asset, is knowing that I didn't have to do that. It didn't have to be, and I could watch other people's work, and I could say, well, they've gotten to this level or this, and why did they get there?
Yep.
And then I meet them. It's like, that's funny that they got there because I don't think they really should be. So I've never been in a hurry.
Yeah.
It's just, and I've been very fortunate to work with great people along the way.
Clearly.
And obviously some people that weren't great, so I basically just say, I don't want to do that again.
That's part of it. But like you said, you learn from those.
Yeah.
You learn from those experiences.
Yeah.
So in closing, let me ask you this. Advice for younger operators and or things that you wish you knew then that you know now, which are maybe both the same thing.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't know. I'm glad I don't know what I know now then, because it wouldn't be an adventure.
Okay, fair enough. But then advice for younger operators.
Yeah, I would say take every day, every shot as an experience, and that could be a good experience or a bad experience. And think about why you made those decisions. If you had to make a decision, why you tilted, when you tilted, how you tilted. There's 1,000 ways to tilt from someone picking up a cup of coffee on the table to somebody's face. And every one of those has a reason based on the story. We are there for the script. We are there for the director's vision of that script and hopefully interpreting what that director wants. And hopefully you are with a director who understands that responsibility that they have. So, be nice to everyone. Be respectful. Learn everyone's name. If someone does something for you, or even not, or you, set dresser, just instead of saying, "Hey, just be diligent." Put that. What I'll do is I'll freeze frame different sections of the call sheet. And I'll kind of just look at the names on the call sheet to make sure I know who those people are. Know those names. That goes a long way because you have that relationship. And again, like I said, the umbrella protecting the crew, and having another crew person, see what you're going through too. You can just, the same thing. You can approach a set dresser and say, I'm having a hard time with, I don't think I can, this or that, or that lamp, or, something, or anything like that. The more you can include someone in your interpretation of a scene or something, the more they're going to feel involved creatively. Mm-hmm. And that's a great place for everybody. So be nice, learn people's names, thank people at the end of the day. It's very simple. That's for everyone else. For you, learn, understand, kind of think about what you did during the day. Think about what you did right, what you did wrong. Do more things right than you do wrong. And that's it. And have fun and realize that operating is, I would think, probably one of the best jobs on the set, because you get to talk to the producers, the directors, you have relationships with these people, with the actors, you're involved or you're not. Sometimes you're just watching, and you'll find where you fit in each time you go at different sets and things. You'll figure out why you fit in and why you fit in that way, and then understand why you fit in that way. So it is an incredible experience to go through in life to be a camera operator. It really is, and I wish all of you the best of luck. If for the people listening intend to be operators, a lot of great jobs out there, but I'm pushing for being operators. But yeah, it's a great job. Just keep going.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.